Good afternoon. I'm Marnie Downing, and I've been asked to come and speak with you about a new epidemic that we have been seeing in schools, cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, what is it? It is when a student or a group of children target another child to torment, harass, humiliate, or embarrass the child. Cyberbullies use the internet, interactive and digital technologies, or mobile devices. So how does this happen on these mobile devices? So here are ones that we will discuss. The first one is exclusion. That one is pretty understandable. You purposely exclude a child, but you also make sure that they know about it. So let's say you're talking and with some friends, but you don't allow another student to come and enter your group or sit with you at your lunch table, or you make sure that that child knows that they're not invited to your birthday party. Next one is harassment, where you are continually harassing a child, telling them that they very negative things on any mobile device or app that you can comment on. Next thing is outing. Outing is when one of your friends, a child's friend, will take very private information that another friend has given them and put it on Facebook or Snapchat, and it was definitely something that was private, and now everyone knows. Cyber stalking is when an individual will always be online when you're online. Let's say you make a comment on Facebook on someone's post, and that person immediately comments behind you, either in a negative way or a creepy way, and so they will be constantly monitoring where you are online. The next one is fraping. Fraping is when you take over someone else's profile, where you are able to log into that person's profile, and then all of a sudden you are putting pictures that are inappropriate that person who actually owns that profile would never do. The next one is fake profiles, which you actually take someone's information and you make a new profile in someone else's name. And you may use their particular photos, like when they go on family vacations. The next one is dissing, and that is basically just being disrespectful to a person. Anytime that they are online, you will have something negative about a comment that they have to say. Next one is trickery. Trickery is when you pretend to be someone's best friend, and they're really wonderful, but then they will tell all of your secrets to anybody that will listen. Trolling is when that particular person just wants to get in arguments with whoever happens to be online. So if you have a comment, that person will always have something negative to say about that comment in hopes that you will get in an argument with them. The last one is catfishing, and catfishing is when they also create fake profiles under your name. So cyberbullying, where does this happen? It happens in social media, instant messaging, chat rooms, email, texting, mobile devices, because 95% of teens in the U.S. are online. Most access the internet on their mobile device, making it the most common medium for cyberbullying. So here's a quote that I thought really fit what we're discussing today. It says, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing," by Albert Einstein. So how do we help? How do we help our kids in junior high and high school? What can we do for them? We really need to tell them and teach them how to deal with cyberbullying, or really any bullying that takes place in their lives. First and foremost, they need to report it to the school and make sure that they collect evidence and keep that evidence, any text messages or comments online. Make sure that you are able to report it to the site, to the website, to the app that you happen to be on, Snapchat or Facebook or any gaming device. And we need to teach them to talk to a trusted adult. And we also need to help them understand that they need to demonstrate care for one another, that they need to be kind to one another, especially when this is happening to one of them. Have them work together and tell them to stop. So we also need to hopefully have our children understand that telling a bully to stop bullying someone else is very important. And don't encourage it. Don't encourage someone else being unkind to someone else. And they need to stay safe when they're online and don't give up. So here are some facts that are dealing with cyberbullying. What is clear is that cyberbullying, like traditional bullying, is about power. Students attempt to gain social status through cyberbullying, says Bowman. Samir Hindua of this Cyberbullying Research Center says that gaining social status often means tearing someone else down, and boys and girls often do that differently. So it really becomes about, if I want to be more popular, then I tear someone else down to make that happen. Also, a study from the Common Sense Media found that parents nationally underestimate children's use of social media, networking, or social media, and often are unaware of how they are used. 37% of students, for example, admit that they have made fun of a peer online, but only 18% of parents thought their child would engage in such conduct. All right, so here's a few more facts. There isn't a single platform where all the cyberbullying takes place, and no online space is completely free of cyberbullying. Since most children and young adults access the internet via their mobile devices, this is the most common media through which they experience this type of harassment. So there really is no safe place online for children, and they really need to be monitored. Bullying as a whole has a huge impact on the victim's mental well-being and their overall quality of life, and cyberbullying is no different. As a matter of fact, some studies suggest that bullies tend to be more aggressive online as there are rarely any real-world consequences over their actions, so the impact on the victims could be potentially even greater because they have access to the child all of the time, 100% of the time, because children usually have their phones 100% of the time. Where if it was a bully just at school, they may only see them at lunch or in a particular class, and that's not the case with cyberbullying. Victims of cyberbullying often experience much lower self-esteem, greater social anxiety, depression, and many would experience suicidal thoughts as well. So let's talk about some figures or some statistics about cyberbullying. About 37% of children and teens between 12 and 17 years experience cyberbullying at least once, with about 30% being targeted more than once. Girls are more likely than boys to be both victims and predators of cyberbullying. Older girls are more likely to report being bullied than any other age and gender group, with 41% of online girls ages 15 to 17 reporting these experiences. 15% of teen girls have been the target of at least 4 different kinds of abusive online behaviors, compared to 6% of boys. So that is very significant in the girl population, which is very disturbing. Girls often struggle with having higher levels of self-esteem, especially in their teenage years, all of their own doing, because growing up as a girl is difficult, and to have cyberbullying on top of that is very, very challenging. The next statistics I found really the most disturbing, that 60% of young people were witnesses to such incidents, but most would not intervene. And we really need to hopefully change the culture of our student body for them to understand and that they need to intervene, that cyberbullying and social bullying should not be acceptable to them as a peer group. Here are some more figures. So I have it broken up with girls and boys, and I'll let you read the specific percentages. So you have number of admitting to bullying others, nasty comments received online, experience name calling by text, being called gay or lesbian as an insult, and experience homophobic bullying. So the next part is the percent of schools with principals reporting occasionally cyberbullying increased from 45% in 2010 to 54% in 2016. So really for me, the big concept that I would like everyone to take away on cyberbullying or bullying in general is a student can be a victim, a bystander, and a bully in different moments. A child was bullied at school this morning but gets online later and bullies back. Their roles shift. Technology gives them tremendous freedom and the power to reach out and touch in nearly every moment for good or evil. Personally, this was very eye-opening to me. I always believed that bullies were just kids who were naughty, who were unkind, and they would target certain individuals. And that really is not true. It is very cyclical, or it goes in a circle, that you may have someone who bullies someone in the morning and then they turn around and are a victim later on in the afternoon, and vice versa. So no wonder it's very hard for us to combat in schools, because one person may be a bully in math and then they're a victim in science. The other thing I would like to take also to talk about, that also talks about the big concept that I want us to really understand at the end of this presentation, is a thing called bully back, which means students think, or they retaliate in kind. So if someone is bullying them or cyberbullying them and online, they will do the same thing. But the unfortunate thing is it only perpetuates the behavior. The victim becomes the bully, and it makes bullying a cycle of abuse. And it never stops, I think, in their minds, because they are still developing emotionally and mentally. They think that that's going to stop, but it doesn't stop. And then it only increases their behavior and increases the bully's behavior in the same moment. So what do we do? So the first thing that we need to look at is, what do we not do? Increase formal sanctions. Because it really doesn't work to think that, or use zero tolerance policies or public shaming. Those things don't work. If you use discipline policies that deal with, you're going to deter the behavior because one child gets in trouble for it, and then they're like, oh, that child got in trouble for it. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Our children are not able to make that connection. They can't make that cause and effect. So what we do need to do is we need to connect and interact with our students, develop a school climate that's positive and where social bullying is not acceptable, and give students a stake in conformity, that actually being positive is the way that you want your school to run. So what about the First Amendment? Because our children do have freedom of speech. The U.S. courts are oriented towards the support of the First Amendment, rights of free expression of students. Certain expressions, however, are not protected and allowed intervention and discipline, including those that substantially or materially disrupts learning, interfere with the educational process or school discipline, utilizes school-owned technology to harass or threaten other students, or infringe on their civil rights. So our student handbook states all victims and witnesses to bullying or perceived bullying must report the incident to staff or a staff member or administrator. Bullying also includes cyberbullying. Cyberbullying means bullying by use of any electronic communication device through the means including but not limited to email, instant message, text message, blogs, mobile phones, pagers, online games, and websites. I thought Mark Twain's quote was very timely. It says, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting its shoes on." And that is so true of how we live our lives today with social media. So here's another takeaway, that knowing what's right doesn't mean much unless you do what's right. A quote by Theodore Roosevelt. And so here's the last piece of information I'd like to discuss. What educators should take away from this is that once they learn of such a victimization taking place, they have a duty to do everything in their power to ensure that it stops. Simply disciplining the student who did the bullying is not enough. They must ensure that it actually stops and that the person targeted is safe. Focusing on the nature of harassment, comprehensive, long-term, recurring programming versus a one-time brief presentation, and demonstratively effective. The bully has to stop, or at least be significantly reduced. Due to negligence involving more than just applying an immediate response, it demands that the response moves behaviors in the desired direction. So lastly, here are a list of my references that I have used for this particular presentation. There are some really great YouTube videos that you might want to take a look at. They would be actually really great to take a look at in your classes or with your own children. So thank you so much for letting me take up your time, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.